Kia ora, good evening. Serious flood damage across the Buller region has been revealed today, and the Mayor's calling for something dramatic to be done about it urgently.
3 devastating floods have hit the region in 8 months, leaving frustrated residents demanding action. Here's Juliet Speedy.
Parts of rural Buller bearing the brunt of this catastrophic flood. Farmhouses like Troy Richardson's, awash with water, sludge and mud.
It's been this high. Yeah, it's just been a current because there was gumboots from that end of the house down in our bedrooms.
What you can't see is the smell.
The septic tank come up through the toilet. It's gone through the house.
This family live near the tiny settlement of Anangahua and have lost everything. They're heartbroken.
It's going to be trip after trip to the rubbish dump. And there's nothing else we can do.
He fled his house at 3 a.m. when it was inundated with water. First stop to rescue his dogs.
Their necks were just out of the water. So half an hour, 20 minutes later, I wouldn't have had dogs.
Buller rivers made themselves at home on farmland throughout this district. Land and stock now gone for good.
3 metres of water right through here, and it's just covered probably a third of our farm with quite heavy silt. And we've lost a lot of the fence lines and the effluent irrigator.
Minister Damien O'Connor visited the area today and flew over to survey the damage.
I'm a local. I've seen floods in the past. This is clearly one of the biggest.
Weary Westport residents returned to their homes after staying in evacuation centres. Carolyn Dolden's house is still under repair from last year's flood. This time around, the temporary accommodation on her front lawn narrowly escaped.
Last time I looked, it was that far from coming over the lip, and it didn't.
Her neighbour Kevin also opening the door with trepidation.
Ruined me tomato, look at it. But he pissed me right off.
But thankfully his brand new carpet is okay. It only went in 2 weeks ago after the last 2 floods.
It only came in a wee way. Oh, that's great.
But relief only runs so deep when you've been hit 3 times in 8 months.
See, I lost my partner too, which she had to go in the home.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So, I'm not a very happy chappy at the moment.
Kevin loves his home and has been here for 30 years, but now insurers refuse to cover it, so any more floods would take him out. These residents are tired and worn down. They want action.
There's going to be a lot of people around here wanting answers and action, not just talking.
Oh, I think they're very down in the dump, getting very depressed, sick of waiting for their houses to be fixed and for something to be done by the councils.
Government and local authorities say they know action is needed.
There's a focus on climate change, it's mitigation, adaptation. I guess the events of the last few months here in Westport are a reminder that we need to get on with that work.
But the Mayor says they need a large amount of help, which won't come cheap.
It's tens of millions of dollars. Stormwater alone in likes of the Westport situation is it's a huge discussion, that has to be had with somebody if we're going to really make great gains.
And there's no question this community deserves some of those.
OK, Juliet, what can actually be done to reduce the flood risk in Westport?
Well, Tom, that's $1 million question and more like the hundreds of millions dollar question. And of course, there isn't one solution, but there does seem to be one consensus here today from all the local authorities I spoke with, and that is that Westport needs a flood wall. Now, this has been a project that's been in the pipeline for a while. It's been controversial and it's been political because this would be a large flood wall up to 14 kilometres long because the rivers come in from both sides of Westport. Now, the Buller Mayor Jamie Clyne told me late today that the biggest frustration for him is the decisions around this don't fall under his jurisdiction or his budget. It's the West Coast Regional Council, so he has no power. He just has to hope that they make the right decision. But with 3 major events here in just 8 months, there's no question something needs to happen here and fast.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Juliet Speedy from Westport.
Well, there is more wet weather heading our way this weekend with Tropical Cyclone Dorvey approaching, and Heather's here now. And Is it headed for Westport?
Yeah, that's the question, and one that no one can be 100% sure of yet. Now, the forecast tomorrow for Westport is for persistent and heavy rain, but as to the intensity and amount of rain this storm will deliver, well, that's still uncertain, and that's because the exact track of Cyclone Dorvey, we still don't know where it's going to end up. We can see the rain it will bring with it, and at this stage, the centre of the system is expected to make landfall around Waikato on Sunday. Now, that will not only bring strong winds and heavy rain, but also hazardous marine conditions with very large swells for western coastlines. Now, there are weather warnings and watches in place, and I'll have more details later in the hour.
Thanks very much, Heather.